Welcome to Reflect with Ed Fassio. Get ready to experience one of the world's first 100% digitally generated podcasts, where we take a step back, dive deep, and strive to learn new things. Join us as we unpack thought-provoking ideas, personal reflections, and inspiring stories to help you stay in the know. Reflect is brought to you by the minds at ByteBrain and powered by emerging technologies from Google, HeyGen, OpenAI, and 11 Labs. Thanks for tuning in. Now, relax and prepare to reflect.
Welcome to Reflect, one of the world's first 100% AI-generated podcasts. I'm Julius and Hale. When a new drug goes to market, it goes through a decade of clinical trials, FDA review, and post-market surveillance. When a bridge gets built, every material spec and load calculation gets certified by a licensed engineer and inspected by an independent authority. When a financial product gets launched, there are disclosure requirements, suitability standards, and audit trails that regulators can pull at any time.
Every high-stakes system humanity has built has a safety standard.
Everyone, except AI. An AI system that influences hiring decisions for 50,000 people can go live next Monday with no clinical trial equivalent, no independent certification, no mandatory disclosure to the people it affects, no audit trail requirement, nothing. A company can buy a model, connect it to their HR workflow, and start making decisions about human beings' livelihoods with less regulatory oversight than a food truck has to clear to sell tacos.
That's not an exaggeration.
It's not an exaggeration. And this is what Aza Raskin means when he says we don't have the governance infrastructure to match the capability we've already deployed. We've handed the lumber company a chainsaw the size of a continent, and we're still debating whether to require a logging permit.
So today we're going to talk about what a baseline would actually look like. Not the EU AI Act, not ISO 42001, the Monday morning version. The thing a real organization with real constraints could actually implement. Let's start with why we don't have a baseline yet. Because it's not because nobody's been trying.
There are actually multiple frameworks in existence. NIST released its AI risk management framework in 2023. It's thorough, it's well-researched, and almost no mid-sized company has implemented it because it reads like it was written for a government contractor with a dedicated compliance team. The EU AI Act is law in Europe, but it's being phased in over years and enforcement is still catching up to the text. ISO 42001 is an international standard for AI management systems, rigorous, certifiable, and largely invisible outside of enterprise procurement conversations.
The problem isn't the absence of frameworks. It's that the frameworks that exist were designed for large enterprises and regulatory bodies. The 200-person company deploying an AI hiring tool or an AI customer service system or an AI credit scoring model has no practical entry point. So they either ignore governance entirely or they hire a consultant who charges them 6 figures to adapt an enterprise framework that still doesn't quite fit.
And in that gap, between the enterprise frameworks and the practical reality of how most AI gets deployed, is where most of the harm is actually happening. Not at the Fortune 500 that has a chief AI officer and a risk committee. At the mid-market company that bought a SaaS product with AI baked in and assumed the vendor handled the governance.
The vendor didn't handle the governance. The vendor handled the model. Governance is yours the moment you deploy it.
So here's what a minimum viable governance baseline actually looks like. 5 components, each one executable without a dedicated compliance team.
Component 1, the model card. Before any AI system goes live in your organization, you should be able to answer in writing, what does the system do? What data was it trained on? What are its known limitations and failure modes? And what populations or use cases is it not appropriate for? This exists as a concept in AI research. It almost never gets implemented in enterprise deployment. If your vendor can't give you a model card, require one. If they won't, that's a procurement red flag.
Component 2, the purpose boundary document. 1 page. What is this system authorized to optimize for? What decisions can it influence directly? What decisions require a human to confirm the output before action is taken? And what domains is it explicitly prohibited from operating in? This document doesn't need to be a legal brief. It needs to be something a new employee could read in 10 minutes and understand what the system is and isn't allowed to do.
Component 3, the audit trail. Every decision influenced by an AI system needs a logged record. What input data was used, what the system output was, who reviewed it, and what action was taken. This isn't just about accountability after the fact, it's about pattern detection. Audit trails let you catch systematic errors before they become systematic harm. If your AI system can't produce an audit trail, it shouldn't be making consequential decisions.
Component 4, the human checkpoint map. For every high-stakes decision your AI system touches, there needs to be a defined point where a named human reviews the output before it becomes an action. Not a team, a role. The hiring manager confirms before the candidate is rejected. The loan officer reviews before the application is declined. The clinical coordinator validates before the care plan is modified. Human checkpoints aren't a sign that the AI isn't working. They're the mechanism that keeps the accountability map from dissolving.
Component 5, the incident response protocol. Before you deploy, you define what a bad outcome looks like, who gets notified, within what time frame, what the remediation pathway is, and how affected individuals are informed. You don't figure this out after the first incident. You figure it out before. Every other high-stakes industry does this. AI should be no different.
5 components: model card, purpose boundary, audit trail, human checkpoint map, incident response protocol. None of them require a team of lawyers. All of them require someone to own them. That's the baseline.
I want to be clear about what this baseline doesn't do, because I don't want anyone walking away thinking this is the finish line.
It's not. A minimum viable governance baseline doesn't solve the bias problem. It doesn't solve the transparency problem for black box models. It doesn't address the geopolitical dimension of whose rules apply when you're operating across borders. It doesn't replace regulatory compliance where regulation exists. What it does is give you a foundation, something to stand on, a starting point that you can adapt to your industry, your risk profile, your regulatory environment.
The perfect governance framework has been the enemy of any governance framework for 10 years in this industry. Companies wait for the definitive standard. The definitive standard doesn't arrive because the technology is moving too fast for regulatory bodies to keep up. And in the gap, deployment continues without guardrails. The minimum viable baseline breaks that cycle. You don't wait for perfect. You build something defensible, document it, and iterate.
Raskin's indifference scenario doesn't require AI to be malicious. It just requires humans to be absent from the decisions that matter. The minimum viable baseline is how you stay present. 5 documents, 5 owners, 5 conversations that most organizations haven't had yet. Your move.
This week, pick one AI system your organization is currently using that touches the decision about a person. 1. Run the 5-component check on it. Does it have a model card, a purpose boundary document, an audit trail, human checkpoints, an incident response protocol? Count how many of the 5 you can answer yes to. That number is your governance score. Anything below 5 is a gap worth closing.
Second, if you're evaluating a new AI vendor or product right now, add the 5 components to your procurement checklist. Require the model card. Ask about audit trail capabilities. Define the human checkpoints before you sign. The conversation you have before deployment is 10 times easier than the conversation you have after an incident.
And third, share the baseline with your team, not as a mandate, as a conversation starter. The organizations building AI literacy from the bottom up are going to be better at catching governance gaps than the ones where only the compliance team knows the rules. Governance isn't a department, it's a culture.
Every high-stakes system humanity has built eventually got a safety standard. AI will too. The question is whether your organization waits to be told what the standard is, or builds the culture that's ready when it arrives.
How many of the 5 can you answer yes to? Start there. See you Tuesday for the final chapter.
Thanks for listening to the Reflect podcast, where we're telling the future. Are you in it? Visit reflectpodcast.com and share your story.
5 questions, 1 AI system this week. See you Tuesday.
In the cyber ocean of online voices and recycled content, something different has arrived. Reflect isn't just another podcast, it's the future of storytelling, powered entirely by AI. From curating data to assembling thought-provoking ideas, we've redefined how journeys are told. Reflect is a podcast that thinks, learns, and evolves with each episode. Every tale, every insight, crafted by the most advanced AI technologies. A podcast that disrupts the industry, breaking free from traditional formats, taking you on an entirely new experience. So tune in now and reflect. We're telling the future.